So it's called frogging because you have to rip it. Rip it.
Oh,
Rip it.
seriously?
I don't know. I mean, that's what people say. I don't know if that's real or not.
That's cute. That's cute.
Hi, my name is Mark and welcome to the channel. Today I'm joined by my mom Susan, my sister Becki, and my husband Ned, and we're in beautiful Tucson, Arizona. Today we're going to attempt to take roving and turn it into yarn using drop spindles. So if you're interested in spending a little bit of time with us, coming along to see our attempted successes, maybe more of our failures, then stick around and let's get into it. The impetus for today's video comes from the great community of spinners that surround me back in Shaker Heights, Ohio. I have Paula of Spinning Loft, my colleague Elfrida at Around the Table Yarns, and countless others who spin beautifully. So understandably, I often find myself tempted to explore spinning based on everything I see around me back in Shaker Heights. As with most new skills that I attempt to learn, typically I try to do it on my own first, and then I go in and do the official one-on-one in-person lesson. So just like everything else I've done, whether it be knitting, sewing, any of the other skills I've tried to acquire, I'm turning to Craftsy, today's sponsor, for my introduction to spinning with a drop spindle. Craftsy is my online resource for all things creative. There are so many classes, all sorts of categories related to fiber arts, things like knitting, crochet, spinning, and then all sorts of other categories, everything from sewing to journaling to really anything crafting related. One class that's piqued my interest is Embellished Crochet, led by Brenda K.B. Anderson. Another class led by Brenda K.B. Anderson that I'm currently in the middle of is Crochet the Felted Bowl Trio. Megan and I have been crocheting these felted bowls, and I'm in the process of felting them, trying to turn them from something where you see the crocheted stitches to fully flush fabric. So we'll see what happens there. To assist me with today's drop spindle adventure, I took a class called Spindling, From Fluff to Stuff with Drew Pettibone. This class led me through everything from the supplies I needed to different ways to get started, different techniques and different approaches to hopefully find as much success as possible with drop spinning on a spindle. In addition to the number of classes available through Craftsy, members have a social aspect. You can connect with others on the site and continually be inspired by what everyone around you is making. If you're interested in exploring all that Craftsy has to offer, you can follow the link in the description box below or in my pinned comments. The first 1,000 people to use that link will receive a full year's membership for only $1.49. So this offer is available to any new Craftsy members. So if you're interested in anything that I've covered here today, go check it out. And now for the focus of today's video. I've joined with my mom Susan, my sister Becki, and my husband Ned to try our hands at spinning with a drop spindle. So we're starting from really square 0, and I know that this would require a little more practice, a little more involvement than just one afternoon. But we want to get our feet wet. I mean, you have to start somewhere. You'll see here I have 2 different kinds of drop spindles. 3 of them have the hook at the top of the spindle right next to the whorl, the disc, and 1 of them has the hook at the opposite end. So when I was picking up my supplies, I didn't really know the difference. It's just what I ended up with. And I was shopping for these things in Connecticut at the Yarn Barn, in Cleveland at Around the Table Yarns, and in Cleveland at River Colors Studio. So I was just gathering my supplies again because I wanted to get my feet wet. I just wanted to experience this as a total beginner. So in addition to those drop spindles, I have a few different, I don't know what to call them, a few different amounts of roving. This is fiber that's been carded and brushed. It's clean. It's ready to be drafted. It's ready to be stretched and then spun using a drop spindle or any type of spinning wheel. So I didn't start from square one. I'm not starting from the sheep itself, but I'm starting with a product that's made available to anybody interested in spinning. And the amounts of roving I have, 2 of them are from Malabrigo. One of them is from Paula of Spinning Loft. And Paula, again, is local to me in northeastern Ohio. You've probably heard me talk about her bags, her project bags that I love, love, love. So today I get to use a little bit of her dyed roving. And if you're a spinner, if you're anyone who's done any spinning, you'll look at these supplies and you'll know I have way more than I need. I don't really know what I was thinking. I assumed there are 4 of us doing it, so I need multiple sets of roving. I definitely wanted each of us to have a drop spindle to work from, but I don't know. I was thinking, oh, we're gonna spin up all this roving immediately in an hour. Little did I know, we easily could have shared like the smallest amount of roving possible to experience this as total beginners. You'll also see among these supplies, I have a couple of nitty knotties. I don't really know what I would use them for. I think the nitty knotty is to gather, to kind of wind up and put up the fiber once it's set. So if I decided on a single ply, or if I wanted to ply multiple singles from my spinning, at that point I think I could wind them off onto a nitty knotty. But as you'll see in the video, we're not getting that far. So that's it for our supplies. Now, before I bring my family on screen, I just want to say I'm really, really grateful for their willingness to come along with me for the unknown, to try their hand at this craft. None of them are knitters or crocheters, so I think this is really a first look at fiber arts, and I'm excited to see their reaction, to see how they take to handling the roving, working with the drop spindles, and experiencing the creation of yarn. So here we are gathered together, we've got our supplies, and we're gonna do a little rundown of our spinning, and we're also gonna watch one of our reference videos to get a better idea of what we should be doing. I apologize for the very sepia-toned hotel room we're in. In Tucson, we have the most beautiful backdrops, but we also have so much sun. There's a lot of bright, direct sunlight, so it can be tricky to find a place to film where you're not totally washed out by the sun or backlit. I know I'm backlit here in this narration clip, but I try to find the most attractive backdrop and balance it with something that focuses decently. So hopefully this is a good happy medium. So our first step here is to get to know our drop spindle, get to know the roving, and we're going to pre-draft our roving. So this is our portion where we're going through before we actually get our spindle going, and we're going to stretch it, we're going to draft it into, I guess, a thinner strip. As I mentioned, the roving we're working with is all pre-carded, pre-brushed, so it's really user-friendly, but we still have to draft it. We still have to stretch it out and get it ready to be spun. So I'm working with Paula's roving. This is from Spinning Loft, and it's that beautiful multicolored sort of rainbow pastel roving, and I started at one end, which is this beautiful sort of yellow gold. It makes me think of Into the Woods. The hair is yellow as corn. So I'm pre-drafting first by just taking a strip and pulling it off of the larger section. From there, you can see the end that's totally fluffy, kind of thinned out, and I think that's what we're calling our drafting zone. And that's where I can pull, and easily it will pull kind of like cotton candy. So all of us are starting with a little bit of drafting.
Practically perfect in every way.
So I've prepared a couple of like pop quiz questions that we're going to ask really all 3 of you. And I think we'll go one by one because Ned might know some more of this than the others because of proximity. First question is, which craft uses 2 needles, knitting or crochet? Becki, this question goes to you.
She thinks she knows it. Knitting.
Ding, ding, Becki, great job. All right, this question goes to Mom. What is the difference between worsted weight yarn and fingering weight yarn?
Why didn't I get an easy one like she did?
Let's hear it, Mom. Let's hear it.
Not fair. Fingers better than worsted because worsted is worse.
Oh my gosh.
Can I steal?
Yes, go for it.
It's the thickness of the yarn. So fingering weight is very thin. I guess maybe fewer plies. I don't know. It's lighter, less heavy.
Is it crisp?
And worsted weight is a thicker, I don't know, less light yarn.
Pretty good, yeah. Once we have a portion of our roving pre-drafted, we're ready to start handling our drop spindle. And to get the roving onto the spindle, we're going to use a leader. So we're taking a little bit of commercial yarn. I'm using yarn from Kelborn Woolens because it's what I have in my current knitting project. And we're attaching that to the spindle close to the whorl and then getting it to our hook. So for me, I'm barber poling it up and getting it hooked around, and I'm always working clockwise because that's what I've learned from my instruction video. For our top-down drop spindles, we're still connecting under the whorl, bringing it up the notch, and then putting it through the hook that's at the other end. Now things get a bit tricky because we have to start spinning. So we're using a couple of different methods here. I'm trying to go off of my leg, really giving the drop spindle a push and getting a lot of spin into it. Others are doing a little bit of kind of hand cranking, still going clockwise, but we're controlling the spin maybe a little bit more manually. And the trickiest part for us is getting the very end of the roving connected to the leader and establishing that first bit of spin. So we're spinning clockwise. And then once we have our spin, we're gonna let a little bit of that spin up into what's becoming our yarn so that it really attaches. And then we're gonna do some spinning until we have enough that we can then bring it back around the drop spindle. So we put more spin into the whorl. And this is where we're going to catch it sort of between our legs or tuck it under. And then we're going to pinch and let it come up into what we've pre-drafted. So I'll mention that the technique we're attempting to use is a park and draft. We're putting the spin into our spindle, and then as soon as it stops spinning in a clockwise direction, we're catching that spindle, tucking it between our legs, and then using our fingers to pinch and control the spin as it comes up into the drafted roving. And I mentioned that we pre-drafted, but at this point, we'll continue to draft. So we're controlling, I guess, the thickness, the weight of this single by how much we draft. And I think, it's my understanding, that this is really where, I don't know, the proficiency, the technique is established. So spinning your spindle, letting the spin come up into the roving is not super challenging. I think it's regulating the thickness, the drafting you're doing of that roving that determines maybe the beauty, the consistency of that ply, of that single that we're creating. So we're doing our best, but of course, as a first-time activity, it's a slow go. I think it's fun, but I do think it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't imagine doing this to make a skein of yarn, let alone enough for a garment.
Right.
Because you were saying the other day, like, this is only one ply.
You could make like
you then have to do it again.
you could make like a baby hat or baby shoe with your yarn.
See, mine is
A
not
keychain. Yeah. Well, it's just kind of thick and fluffy. But that's okay.
That's okay. Mine's quite lumpy.
But mine's also too thin and I've broken it, so it's not like mine is right either.
It got really fluffy.
Mine's got a whole cocoon. She's got like a caterpillar nest.
Do I need to let it go and go back to that?
I am enjoying this.
I think it's peaceful. I think this
Yeah.
would be fun to do like outside on a nice day. Just like relaxing and focusing on it. This is a good one. When a knitter or crocheter says that they have to frog their project or a portion of their project, what do they mean? Becki, do you have a guess?
I was going to say jump ahead.
Okay, skip along to the
I like
next thing.
leapfrog. Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like frogs jump. I don't know.
Yep, absolutely. Ribbit, ribbit.
Like jump to
Okay,
another step.
let's go to Susan. What do you think? If someone has to frog their project, what does that mean?
Feed it flies.
Here's a brief aside. This morning, we all went on a sunrise hike. And as we're there watching the beautiful sunrise over the mountains and all the saguaros, the cacti, Mom says, I still remember my first sunrise. I was at Dolphin Beach. I was 16 years old. And I was so confused because I thought, did your parents never let you see the sun? Anyway, so we want to know, when did you first see the sunrise? And what's your definition of seeing the sunrise? Because Mom's was seeing the sunrise over the horizon, not just seeing the sun come up.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think that is fair.
We
She
can
also,
understand it now.
in Susan's defense, she also said part of her definition was like making an event of it, like going out of your home, going somewhere to watch the sun come up. I think that's fair to not do that until you're 16.
Yeah.
I know I
Or to
wasn't
see
let
it-
out of the home until I was 16.
Or to see it with an unobstructed view, to see it just
Yes.
right at your
To see the whole thing.
Yeah.
Up over the ocean or come up over a mountain or
We
a
get you
field
now.
where you see it from just a sliver of sun and then it climbs into the air.
So back to our
Frogging.
frogging.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, Ned, you haven't had a guess. Mom, do you have a real guess?
Oh no, we came apart.
I would say jumping ahead.
Jumping
I think
ahead.
what Becki said was
Okay.
sounded good.
And Ned, do you have a guess?
So I'm gonna guess that frogging is like,
Sun destroyed.
I don't know, a special type of, maybe not a stitch, but like something you do to the project.
Some
to-
technique,
like a
maybe.
technique,
Yeah.
like a decorative technique. I don't know.
Good. So frogging, you'll be surprised to know, is just when you take your work all apart.
Oh.
You take it apart to get back to maybe square one, or maybe there was a whole section you did wrong. You missed an instruction, so you have to just pull back to that point.
Well,
So
why
I
is that
definitely
called
missed her.
frogging?
Because we used to have to dissect frogs in middle school, and you took them apart.
So it's
So it's called frogging because you have to rip it. Rip it. Rip it.
Seriously?
Really? Or is
I
that
don't know.
your
I mean,
joke?
that's what people say. I don't know if
Oh
that's
my
real or not.
goodness.
That's cute.
Clever.
That's cute.
Okay, this next question is also about spinning, and it's a good point related to sort of maybe our varied amounts of success or failure here. With a drop spindle, this is a true or false. With a drop spindle, you can only spin one type of yarn, like one weight of yarn, one type of yarn. True or
I'm
false?
going to say false.
yeah, I'm also gonna say false.
And why do you say that is? Why do you
Mom,
go with false?
first.
Because there's so many different weights of yarn, and it would be a shame if you could only do it to one kind.
It would be such a shame.
It would be a shame.
No yarn left behind. Well, I think also evidenced by what we're doing, you can see right in front of you, you can make yarn that's really, really thin, or you can make yarn that's a thicker strand.
Yeah. Well, and also it seems like, as we've said, that this is just one ply, and so then you put them together.
Right.
And so I'm assuming if you wanted, you could do
Even more than two
yeah,
plies.
3, 4, however many. I don't know
I
how
don't
many
know.
plies are.
Look
in
how
different weight,
mine
but-
is very.
Becky, yours looks good. It's
Oh,
good.
Becki, that's really
beautiful.
I thought I
good.
didn't have any, but it's just really
Very
really
good.
looking off. Sorry, but.
Oh.
When we finish our practice, I want to show off what we're doing. We're going to examine everyone's yarn.
Oh, I lost.
This part I can
Go ahead
succeed.
and-
The first part, what drafting is where.
So as we keep spinning and practicing a little bit here, we're going to share a couple little stories, some of our adventures from this trip in Tucson so far. So besides our sunrise hike, we went to the Desert Museum a couple days ago, and we saw all sorts of stuff there.
I really enjoyed that, especially because we've been before, but we haven't gotten to spend such a long amount of time there.
We got to take our time and explore really as much of it as we wanted to see. They had dinosaurs,
That was very
That was
cool.
so
That was very fun.
which was
And-
surprising. I didn't expect that.
And the cactus garden.
That was beautiful. That's one of my favorite things I feel like in Tucson that I've seen is this cactus garden at the Desert Museum, and it's like a small area. It doesn't take but 5 minutes, 10 minutes if you want to look at everything in that area. But they have all of these varieties of cactus and the signage to tell you sort of quick facts about it. I just think it's so cool to see the variety.
Tell them your favorite.
What was my favorite? Was the cowboy?
The organ.
Oh, the organ.
Because it looked
Yes,
organ
yes,
pipe.
yes, yes.
It
The
looked
organ pipe.
so much like that.
I love that one. I also like the prickly pear. And
The prickly
they had a
cowboy
few
one.
different varieties. Yeah, I like the cowboy one the best, I think.
Yeah. And the bird show.
Oh, of course. Oh my goodness.
Pretty awesome.
Becky almost got taken away by a bird.
It
Yeah.
thought my hair was a nest. No.
We joked with Becky before going. We said if your hair is high enough, and it's like the highest thing of the crowd, these birds, these raptors, are going to land on you because they do fly right over you to where they touch you. And at one point, it was coming from behind us, so we weren't prepared. It did touch Becky, and you'll see that or hear it in this clip. And they had told us, be quiet, be as quiet as you can, because the birds won't want to fly up and visit the trainer that's there if we're making too much noise. So we were startled and giddy, but we were trying to be quiet and respectful, which makes it harder to be quiet and respectful. That looks really good, Nat. It's pretty.
Your color's really pretty too.
The color's really pretty.
Gorgeous. I'm scared about to rip it. It's so
I like
skinny.
working with this like yellow gold because I can see it well.
Yeah.
I think working with the darker dyed portion was a little harder.
Getting back to our trip,
Yes.
I really enjoyed our Sabino Canyon crawler tram going up the mountain. So beautiful.
That was gorgeous and nice because we could just sit there. I knit on it, which was fun to work on my project. Becky kept saying she wished that we had hard candies.
Because I felt like we were in a parade because we were sitting
Throw
on the
candies at
back.
people, yeah.
We were sitting on the back and people were hiking up it, and I wanted to like throw that or water bottles towards them, or a wet cloth or something.
Becky, Susan, and Ned, if you were stranded on a deserted island, Dolphin Island, and needed to make yarn for the dolphins, what could you use to spin fiber? Yes.
Yes.
I got so excited I thought of something. Seaweed.
Do you mean what fiber
What
we use
tool?
or what tool?
We would like to know, how could you make a tool?
Oh,
What
make
could
a
you
tool.
use
Oh.
to spin? But that's a good answer, seaweed.
Oh,
to
I
make
was going to spin seaweed on
that could be your
a
medium.
piece of driftwood.
Beautiful idea.
okay.
Becky?
Maybe I would make this part like the coconut in a stick.
Ooh, that's good. Coconut and a stick.
I was gonna say something with that involved some sort of stick and driftwood.
Yeah, the wood is.
Well, the answer from this little trivia quiz that was created for me is anything. Anything that can be like a stick. So driftwood's great. And then anything to be a weight, to be like the whirl, which helps put the spin in. So you could use a shell, you could use a rock, you could use coconut. Yeah, beautiful. Before we go to our final thoughts and impressions of our first time spinning, I want to take a look at everyone's single that they've created. So first up, we've got Ned's. Ned was using some of the Malabrigo roving, and I said as we were working that I think working with Paula's roving, the kind of gold color, was maybe a little bit easier because I could see exactly what I was doing. With the darker color of the Malabrigo that I picked out, maybe it was a little bit more challenging, just like knitting or crocheting. If you're working with a really dark color, it's harder to see your stitches and to read the fabric that you're creating. So Ned has a beautiful single that he's created. I think he was really in the groove, and one of my secret hopes is that he'll get into spinning. So maybe Paula, maybe Elfrida, maybe some of the other people in our community will eventually get him hooked on spinning, because selfishly, I think it would be really nice if Ned liked to spin yarn, because then I have a beautiful resource of hand spun yarn at my disposal, which could be really fun. And then we've got Becki's single. I think Becki was also doing a really beautiful job. Even if it felt like it was very foreign to her, she was doing really well. And I think she was creating a beautifully even, kind of lightweight ply or single. So I was impressed. I don't know that she was sold on it, but I think she was doing well. And for Mom's attempt, I think Mom, not to throw anyone under the bus, maybe struggled the most. And we might have set her up for that by the size of the drop spindle she was using. So if that's the case, Mom, I'm sorry. I think it still went well. I think she still did a beautiful job. And throughout the process, none of us ever had our fiber break. The roving, the drafted bit that we were working with, that would break apart because we would draft it too much. But the actual spun fiber we were creating never broke. So I think we were all successful in creating yarn. And last, we have my single. I had a lot of fun doing this. I always struggle with the idea of learning a new hobby or starting something new because it competes with the hobbies I already have. So I enjoy sewing, I want to be better at sewing, but it competes with the time I spend knitting. And the same is true for any other hobby. So I like the idea of spinning. It's something that I want to do kind of one-on-one with someone like Paula, someone like Elfrida, but I don't know if I'm ready to start it just yet, because I think once I do it, it's gonna take over and it's gonna demand probably a lot of my time. Make sure to show Mom, Becki, and Ned some love in the comments. I think they were very brave to show up here on the channel and to be totally open to learning something that is brand new to all of us. Now we'll hear some final thoughts and general impressions from everyone about the experience today. All right, so that's it for our learning experiment today. I think we all learned. I think we all progressed. I know I'm going to keep spinning. I'm going to keep practicing with the rest of the roving I have, and I'll probably end up working one-on-one with some of the people that spin at a professional level back in Shaker Heights. And I don't know, Ned, do you think you'll spin anymore?
I'm definitely interested in learning about spinning with a spinning wheel. I don't know if this is for me, but I enjoyed it, the concept.
Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
Yeah.
Only time will tell. Yeah. Becki, do you envision yourself doing this often in life?
Probably not, but it was definitely interesting.
That's a shame, Becki, because I feel like you were the star student of the day.
Thanks.
Yes.
And Mom, do you think this could be a second career?
I don't think you want this to be a second career for me. I think I was a fail, but it was fun.
It was fun. So let's
was
say
a lot of
one
fun.
thing.
It was definitely fun.
Maybe one thing we take away from it. For me, as someone that works with a lot of, I don't know, machine spun and dyed and plied, I don't know, what would I call it, commercial yarn? As someone who works with a lot of commercial yarn, I have a different understanding and appreciation for the yarn itself. And definitely when I work with things that are hand spun, I have a little bit or a lot more context for that. Ned?
I certainly just have a new appreciation for the people that hand spin yarn, because I think that we meet some of them in Ohio, and it's never occurred to me really how difficult it is. So I have a newfound appreciation and respect for the work that they do in creating this yarn.
Becki, what's your takeaway from the whole experience?
I definitely admire people who want to give this a shot. I do think that even though it was challenging, it was very therapeutic. And so, not that I would do it again, but I liked getting to try it. Yeah. And so having the patience and the
there was something very
persistence.
meditative about
Yeah, I really was focusing, and for me it was enjoyable.
And you get to see, I don't know, you're creating something beautiful, especially yours is really beautiful and consistent. Even if somebody were doing it and it looks really bumbly and thick and thin, not looking at you, Mom, but
I did look at her, sorry.
Even if somebody were doing it and you're not seeing the sort of smooth, beautiful result, it still is, I don't know, something that centers your breathing and your focus and your hand-eye coordination, which is nice. Yeah. Mom, what's the takeaway?
I would charge $1,000 per skein. Is that how you say it? of yarn if I had to make it myself like this.
Little House on the Prairie. Here we come.
This, I like Becki said, Ned said, I admire someone who does this. Oh my.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for spending some time with us today. This is a different type of video. We're in a different place. We have a different cast of characters, and we're doing something a little bit different from what I normally showcase on the channel. So if you've made it to the end of the video with us, we really appreciate it. As always, you can find me over on Instagram, on Ravelry, at MakerMarkKnits. Be sure to check the description box for upcoming Patreon, Zoom events, and other things going on. So as always, thanks for choosing to spend this time with us. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting to you, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Bye.